This is Flick.
And we are at episode 48. We're doing side 2 of our Big Star covers extravaganza. We're doing a lucky 13 covers of Big Star. Um, I would advise you go back and listen to our first episode. Mr. Flick has decided to break his playlist into two sides. I didn't necessarily follow it the same way. Mr. Flick, why don't you explain what you're doing with your playlist here as we jump into part 2?
Well, my first side is the rockers, and my second side, which is the side that will be featured today, are the what I would call the mopers. They are the downers. Big Star I think was great at both speeds. They had great rockers. There was always I think a lot of their catalog was tinged with melancholy, whether it was rockers or downers. Um, but when they were down all the way, and that's where we are today with my playlist.
Well, look, the way I discovered Big Star, I was in my early 20s, in the early 90s, and the Big Star was getting a lot of press back then, and they were, a lot of people who knew Big Star and were teenagers when Big Star was still around. They were, by 20 years later, they were in the prime of their music career. So lots of artists starting in the 90s, I think, started covering Big Star, and my awareness of the band really comes heavily from the people who were fans of either Alex Chilton or Big Star, finally getting into the point in their career where they had a little more control and were putting more of their own ideas on the records, including a lot of Big Star covers. So Big Star covers were a big part of my discovery of their catalog. While I am not focusing solely on the downers, I do think Big Star's third it's definitely my favorite album. I wouldn't say it's the best. They're all great. So I probably was a little heavier on the downers the first time. Is there anybody who does both rockers and downers well at the same time? I can only think of the Melvins. Anybody else?
Well, anybody else? I mean, there are the Beatles.
Yeah. All right, that's a show for another time. All right, I'm going to let you go first here. You know what? I'm not going to, because you went first last time. I'm going to go first this time, but I'm going to do one that it's gonna be a conversation. I'm hoping will cue you up so that we're gonna talk about the same band, but we're gonna talk about two different covers from the band. I am going to pick. I'm gonna kick off side 2. I'm gonna go back to 1984. I was not listening to the band This Mortal Coil in 1984. I was 14 years old, and I was probably listening to Billy Joel. I'm sad to say. Although Prince was pretty good in 1984. I think I would have been listening to a lot of Purple Rain. Anyway, their cover, It'll End in Tears from 1984 from This Mortal Coil. I don't know a ton about This Mortal Coil other than they were sort of the 4AD house band. I think the owner of 4AD Records made this project, This Mortal Coil, and they were able to get incredible guest spots to sing. And on It'll End in Tears, the first song is a cover of Kangaroo, from Big Star, but the first 3 songs on It'll End in Tears are Kangaroo, then Song to the Siren, sung by Elizabeth Fraser from Cocteau Twins, who is an all-time favorite of mine, and then another Big Star cover, Holocaust. I don't think there were tons of bands out putting out 2 Big Star covers on the same side of their record in 1984. So that heritage from Big Star 3, which is the sort of downer stuff, really, I do think has another direct connection to the 4AD record catalog. 4AD records of the 80s are like really, really important in my music listening. The Lonely as an Eyesore compilation was great. I loved the Throwing Muses. The Pixies were 4AD. There were just tons of great bands on there. So the fact that 4AD was a part of my process of finding Big Star, I'm very happy about. I am picking Kangaroo from their first record, but they have some other stuff that I think rates on the list. I think there are other This Mortal Coil songs which we talked about beforehand, so I know you're picking one of the other ones. I don't know if you're ready to talk about that one, but you got to give This Mortal Coil credit because all the covers are quality, and they picked great material, and they were doing it really before everybody else.
Yeah, I'm not ready to go there just yet on my list. It will come later. I do want to mention I do believe that another 4AD band I believe Sugar's Copper Blue was on 4AD in the UK.
Interesting. Meryl Garbus is on 4AD from Tune Yards, the band Tune Yards. She lived across the hall from me in Oakland, so I got to be housemates with a 4AD artist. That's one of the highlights of my life. I'm not kidding. I love 4AD records. I don't think they had a bad band, to be honest, especially in the 80s and 90s. I'm just happy to talk about them because they also helped me find Big Star's Third.
Oh, 4AD did?
Oh, yeah. 4AD was a big part of me realizing, like, because I'm not going to, like, you and I talk about this plenty, the poppier stuff, especially the first Big Star record, like, that's real, they are reverent pop. I mean, they pretty much, the power pop genre, I think you could make a case, flows primarily from the first Big Star album. Like, I know power pop existed before then, but the way we think of power pop now, I don't think it was ever done better than on the first Big Star record.
Yeah, no, I don't think you would get a lot of debate on that. That I think is generally the thinking is that, yeah, I mean the Big Star was kind of taking the cue from the Beatles, but yeah, I mean other power pop bands were kind of stemming from Big Star, unless maybe not like the Raspberries. I think the Raspberries were coming from the Beatles and the Who. I think a lot of the other ones were coming from Big Star. By the way, though, that is an interesting thought, because as far as where our tastes diverge, Big Stars is one, but yeah, you're more whereas I like it all, you definitely favor the third record, and you don't really seem to like other power pop bands, although I do.
I like Cheap Trick, but I would say Cheap Trick definitely has a Beatles lineage, is with those harmonies the way they did. But they were big. I don't know if you get Cheap Trick the way we get them without Big Star first.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I mean it. It was the Beatles thing coming through Big Star, so it's a matter of whether other bands were taking it direct from the Beatles or kind of getting it funneled, certainly all of those bands were Beatle fans as well, but that I think there was a lot of paving the way that came through Big Star. It wasn't all just coming directly from the Beatles.
True.
Okay, so yeah, my next, or I guess my first on side two. And by the way, I don't recall how many songs I did on the last one. So my 13 might actually be 14. It might be a Baker's 13. We'll have to see, but that's nothing new for me. My list tends to be overflowing a little bit. Anyway, okay, so since I do have two different versions of 13 on my playlist, and that is because there are so many, and many of them are very good. Some of them not so great, but a lot of them very good. And so I'll start side two with the other version of 13 that I have, and that is Wilco's version of 13, which goes back to their second record, Being There. And it was a B-side to, I think, Out of Mind, Out of Sight, when I originally heard it. But at this point, it's shown up in a few different incarnations.
Yeah, I don't. While prepping for the show, I looked at it at lists of covers, and 13 is the most covered, I think, by far. Kangaroo's not too far behind. There was like a period there where it seems like every live artist in the early to mid 90s had to do a cover of Kangaroo for their encore at some point. But yeah, 13. I'm not going to argue or quibble at all about having multiple versions of 13. All right, up next, I'm going to mine the same rich vein for the next couple of picks on my side, and this is actually probably as close to rockers as I'm going to get. So as I'm, we've never done a trailer episode, so Flick and I have never really told our bio. I think we talk about being from Iowa often enough that that's not new news. But again, I was at college at the University of Iowa in like the late 80s, early 90s, and right smack in the middle of my college years, A tribute album came out. Now, I don't want to say it was just from Iowa. It wasn't, but there's a ton of Iowa artists on it. It's from 1991. I can't. The only band on this record that I think people might know would be, well, Mitch Easter's on it, and the Young Fresh Fellows are on it. Ben Vaughn is on it. So there are some artists who are not. They're not just Iowa famous. But the album is called not the singer, but the songs. And again, I think most tribute albums are crap. But for some reason, this one in 1991 just it has banger after banger. I don't think I'm overstating it. So I'm going to grab a few here. The first one I want to talk about is a band called the Dang Trippers, DANGTRIPPERS. If you go on to Spotify today, I think they have 12 followers total, and their most frequent listener right now is in Brisbane, Australia, not in Iowa. So I'm not sure what the overall career footprint of the Dang Trippers are, but their cover of In the Street is really good. Now, In the Street, while 13 is probably the most covered Big Star song, it is not the most well-known Big Star cover. I mean, you'd agree with me, Flick, by far the most well-known Big Star cover is Cheap Trick's cover of In the Street from the That 70s Show, right?
the That 70s Show?
Yeah, I don't watch it, so yeah.
Well, no, it's just funny to phrase it that way. That
Yeah.
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a correct call. By the way, though, a quick thing to mention about not the singer but the song. Not strictly speaking a Big Star tribute album. It's an Alex Chilton tribute album.
True.
So
but
if
it's
you're
heavy on Big Star stuff.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, just thought that was an important detail.
It is
to mention.
Well, that album is one of the few places where I've seen a cover of Watch the Sunrise. So, what can you do? Anyway, I'm going to talk about the album a little bit more, so I'll let it go here. But I'm starting with the Dang Trippers, In the Street, because, again, I'm not as big a power pop fan as you, Flick, but when it hits, it's great. There's nothing better than that. And the Dang Trippers, for whatever happened to them, this was a mighty moment for them, and I'm putting it on the playlist. Give it a spin.
Yeah, and that is one of the rare places you do find a recorded cover of Watch the Sunrise. By the way, I should mention every year I think they still do a Alex Chilton birthday party at the Empty Bottle in Chicago. Yeah. So you do kind of get to see a version of just about everything at that. So that is another place where I have heard that song covered. Okay, so my second downer on my side 2 of my playlist. This is originally from a 7-inch single. It's the Posies version of I Am the Cosmos. Originally, this was on a 7-inch single that was backed with Gigolo Ant's version of I Am the Cosmos as the B-side, or maybe as a double A side. I'm not really sure technically, but that was a very cool thing from the 90s. And as the side A, for Chris Bell, that was side A of one of my favorite all-time side A, side B combos, as the Chris Bell original version of I Am the Cosmos, which was backed with You and Your Sister. So anyway, that is my second entry to my downer side of my playlist.
It's really eating at me that there are no good covers of the song Downs by Big Star. That's really what belongs on a Downers playlist. I can't get over it. All right, I'm going to go back to my favorite tribute album here from Iowa. Not the singer, but the songs. You're right. It's an Alex Chilton tribute, not purely a Big Star. But I do think the Big Star covers are the star. So I am grabbing from this album the band Head Candy, who I can't remember if I saw them at Gabe's or I saw them at the Student Union. It was they had a 7-inch single that I got that was really good on clear vinyl. And I can't remember the name of it right now. And Not a lot of their stuff is on Spotify. Head Candy might have been a little on the derivative side, especially for a power pop band. But I don't know. They meant it. They could bring it live. It was a fun show, and they picked "Thank You Friends" to cover, which is another sort of left fieldy cover. It's I don't know how many rockers there are on Big Star's Third, but it's close. It's close-ish. I'm going to recommend it. I'm putting it on the list. Head Candy's cover of "Thank You Friends" from that tribute album back in 1991. I'm gonna try to dig up some other Head Candy stuff if I can find it on YouTube. Again, going back to the every band who played in the college town you went to college in is probably not the greatest exercise, but every once in a while you find some nuggets, and I forgot how good they were until I went back and made this playlist and listened to them. So I may start pushing Head Candy on everybody else, but for now, you're just gonna have to take "Thank You Friends" from the tribute album, going back to not the singer but the songs from 1991.
Okay, my next one is I don't know. I almost said one of my favorites, but with Big Star, they're all kind of favorites. I don't mean to sound corny, but you know, I don't know. It's almost perfect. The Big Star catalog, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
But anyway, a band I don't know a whole lot about, but they do a good version of Big Black Car, and the band is Alluring Strange. Let me see. This is from a compilation, Rec Room Safe House Sampler Volume 2. But yeah, I don't know a lot about the band, but this is a very good version of Big Black Car.
Another favorite. I'm very happy you picked that one. I'm gonna go to Evan Dando. Neither of us yet, as far as I know. You didn't pick Ballad of El Goodo on any of yours, did you?
Well, I did, but you can go ahead because it was kind of on my side A, but it was one that I skipped over the last time.
Well, that's one of my all-time favorites. The lyric "Guns were made to be stuck by." I'm not even sure necessarily what it means, but I have mumbled that lyric to myself probably a million times in my life. I don't even know why. It's one of those lyrics. It just stuck in my head. It's a Ballad of El Goodo is a great earworm. And Evan Dando, he's not a first ballot covers Hall of Fame artist, but
he's good taste.
He's got his moment. Yeah,
he has good taste because I don't know. He likes a lot of the things I like. Like I think the Lemonheads in the early days were taking a lot of their cues from the Replacements.
Yeah.
He combined that with like Graham Parsons.
Yeah.
And yeah, Big Star. So his taste is very much in line with my taste.
And he is one of the better pop songwriters, I think, of the alt genre. Like of all the records that were getting played on like Q101 in Chicago and stuff, not too many artists of that. A lot of those records, I know you disagree with me on this, but the early 90s, particularly in alternative, had loads of like one-hit wonders and novelty records that were sort of being passed off as alternative. It was a very refreshing moment when a Lemonheads records were coming on, because he could really write, and he had some bands who could really play, and his covers were great, his originals were great. I'm going to throw El Goodo on here because it's more than Goodo. It's pretty great-o.
Yeah. You threw a lot at me there.
I have to get it in somehow. I've tried 50 times I've tried to get us to do the 90s thing, and I understand why we don't. I'm being passive aggressive. It's part of who I am.
I guess so. Okay, so I was going to get to the thing that I was going to before that, that which was guns are made to be stuck by. So when you say you're not sure what it means, I guess I'm not sure I follow.
Look, it's one of those. It's a fantastic earworm, and I catch myself singing it, and I realize like if you sing that in public, people will look at you like, what are you singing? You know, if you sing "Guns Were Made to Be Stuck By" before you like walk into a place of business, you're going to get yourself shot these days. Like it's a little bit of a zinger, you know?
Right, but the phrase "stick to your guns" isn't meant to be taken literally, though.
I get it, but it's such an interesting little twist on stick to your guns. Everybody gets guns
Mhm.
were made to be stuck by. It's just I don't can anybody but Alex Chilton have pulled that out? I just don't see it. It's always stuck in my brain. It's such a great song. Anyway, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna do the thing I hate. I'm gonna go to songmeanings.com and see what they have to say. You can take your pick. I'm gonna go look.
Well, I mean, as far as that line goes, it's just, it's just a different, it's just a turn of the phrase, stick to your guns. It's just meaning uh, have strength in your convictions. It's not in any way literally, to be taken as
You don't
about
think the
guns.
title? You don't think that title is sarcastic a little bit? I think that even the delivery is a little sarcastic.
Well,
That one was sarcastic.
yeah, the Ballad of El Gudo, I think it's just, I, yeah, it sarcastic, but in what way, I guess. I think it's about somebody being just going through life with an idealistic point of view, and you get a lot of that in the music business, where it's just like it's not such an easy thing to navigate that world if you have any sort of artistic vision that you want to stick to. I think that's really what it's about.
Yeah, he was for all the musicians who are never were's. He's not a never was. He made it. He made it to the top of his
Mhm.
profession. He had both popular acclaim and the respect of his peers. In fact, he has more like respect of his peers than almost anybody I can think of who practice. Like he's certainly like
Yeah.
among the most respected artists by other artists I can think of in living memory. Like
Yeah,
he was
but
being
he
a
could have.
little exaggerated, is all. It was a little over
But
the top to say that he needed to stick to his guns and by his side was God because he wanted to make the big star record. Like it's a little over the top, but that's what I like about it.
well, yeah, I don't know what role God had in it per se, but yeah, I mean, I do think it's a lot about. He could have stuck with a career of making hits like that. That was a lane he could have stuck to, but um, he obviously wanted to go a different way, and it didn't really matter what the commercial prospects for that were.
And truly, it's true enough. No one ended up turning him around. He did really end up doing
Yeah,
what he wanted to do. So again, I think that's why he rates 2 episodes. He's
yeah.
that good.
I mean, I think I think he and definitely Chris Bell wanted to be popular, but they wanted to do it their own way. Is all.
Yeah.
They did. Alex Chilton already had the option of just staying popular. Like he could have just stayed doing the same thing that he was doing that was working, but he wanted to do it on his own terms, and that's the Big Star story. Unfortunately, the story didn't have such a happy ending for them.
That is true. All right. Well, look, I didn't realize there was this much material in an Evan Dando cover. I'm going to keep that in mind for future episodes.
That's right. But yeah, I don't know. That's what to me, Ballad of El Gudo is about that sort of idealistic approach to things, um, and having the strength in your convictions. Okay, so yeah, my next one is going to the bleakest of the bleak, which is Holocaust, and I would say if there's any song in the Big Star catalog that was kind of challenging to me, it was Holocaust. Uh, where I think the first time you hear that, it's not so easy to digest, and very much I think intentionally so. And then when you get it, you are leveled by it. I think at least that's how it was for me. I remember hearing it a few times and not quite getting it, but then being floored by it when it finally clicked. Um, and yeah, you mentioned I think it was last time the placebo cover, which I think is very good. The version I like even more than that is some Volt's version of it. Sunvolt, by the way, Jay Farrar, I think pulled out. He covered two of my favorite all-time bleakest songs, which would be Holocaust here, and they do a great cover of Bob Dylan's "Going, Going, Gone," which are just two of my favorite, just bleak songs.
Well, I'm not trying to issue a hot take here, and I'm going to try very hard to check. I'm using the old internet here to try to figure out if I don't get this. I don't want to get this wrong. I have never read anywhere that Ian Curtis or anybody from Joy Division ever particularly had any interest in Big Star's Third. But I think Big Star's Third didn't come out. It came out to like 1978, and even then, it came out. How many copies were in the first pressing? Right.
Right.
Like, I don't know if Joy Division or anybody in Joy Division crossed paths with Big Star's Third. And I know that especially when you listen to the later Joy Division stuff, that's about as bleak as it gets. But I would say Holocaust might out bleak even Joy Division's like second record. And I'm not trying to do a hot take here, because nothing makes me happier than seeing Joy Division get their due and get their respect. And a lot of people, when they pick up on Joy Division, I don't think they think of Joy Division as having any sort of clear antecedents. Like, I think a lot of people associate, especially the second Joy Division record. The first one is very bleak too, but the second record really slows it down, and just it's unrelenting in how down it can be. The only thing I think that compares to it is Holocaust. I think you could say Big Star's Third is up there with anything Joy Division did in terms of that feeling. I know that's not the popular consensus at this point, but I'd put Holocaust up with anything Joy Division did in terms of just being able to capture whatever that is. I don't think of Alex Chilton as being very similar to Ian Curtis in a lot of other ways, but boy, I see a very clear. I mean, it wasn't literal and it wasn't in its time, but if you like Joy Division, you need to dig out Big Star's Third, and I'd be surprised if you didn't like Holocaust. I'd be really surprised. It hits. It hits. All right, I'm going to steal one from your list here. We've talked about a little bit. Maybe we just crosstalk this one. I had Yo La Tengo's Take Care on my list, and you have it on your list, and I have deferred on a few of them, but I want to share this one. Because one, we both like Yo La Tengo quite a bit. And again, that's first ballot covers Hall of Fame if ever there was. And like you said, like they might even name a career achievement award, I think, for Yo La Tengo just because they're so thirsty for it. Like they're so, their covers game is so integral to who they are and who they've always been. They don't always land every cover, but when they do, they're as good at it as anybody. And I do think their version of Take Care, again, I hate to keep going back to the same criteria, but it is a perfect mix of being reverent of the original. Clearly, they are very, very, very deep fans of the band and the song, but it's also very clearly Yo La Tengo. And you have to be good, I think, to pull that off. You have to be great to pull it off as often as they do. I'm not aware of there being a ton of great covers of Take Care. I think it's another one of those sort of great downer. It's a little on the woozy side. From the late Big Star catalog. So I'm drawn to it for a ton of different reasons. I think I've got a cover of almost everything on Big Star's Third on my list at some point. Had to get Take Care in there, and I think Yo La Tengo in their hands, it's about as well done as you're going to get.
Well, and yeah, I mean, also bleak, kind of, like, so this is the last song on, well, it didn't end up being like the last song on my list. It's kind of the last song on my list proper, because I think it's a good way to go out. But
you can come back to it, but I had to put it in.
But it is bleak, and it's sort of bleak and hopeful at the same time, because it's a song where Alex is obviously talking to somebody who is in a very troubled state. Yeah. The line in the song, the opening line is "Take care not to hurt yourself," which I think speaks to depression or something along those lines. But but hopeful in that, that it's a message that I'm here for you if you need help. So yeah, I mean, it I think is, I don't know, it definitely resonates along those lines, and a great song. And yeah, Yola Tango, Yola Tango covers all of the possible range in the covers that they do, and their taste in them. Like, they could easily pull something off of top 40 radio, as dig into something like Big Star or Velvet Underground, with equal reverence, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about Yola Tango. And yeah, definitely first ballot Hall of Famer if there's a cover band Hall of Fame.
It is ironic. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Which isn't to downgrade their originals at all.
Oh, no. I do think in Take Care, like, for Alex Chilton at that point in his life to offer to any other human being to be their rock, like, like, I'm here to help you, buddy. If you listen to Big Third, he needed someone in his life to be singing that to him around that time. And I'm not sure he had anybody in his orbit as free-flowing with the love and friendship as he is on that song. He might have benefited from it. I'm sad because I'm not sure he had the attention he needed at that time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those songs on the third album were songs that he was writing about his girlfriend, and I don't really know if that's the story with Take Care, but and they were collaborating a lot on this record too, and so I don't really know how that relates to Take Care necessarily, but it could be that this is where that comes from.
All right, well, I'm sorry I stole that one from you, but it's Big Star's third, and I had to go for it. It is what it is, son.
Okay, well, yeah. So then that makes it my turn. Okay, so yeah, next on my list is so this is where I have this Mortal Coil on my list, which is from the album Blood, and it's their version of Chris Bell's "You and Your Sister," which, as I mentioned earlier when I talked about "I Am the Cosmos," was the B-side to "I Am the Cosmos." Really, as far as those songs go, it's kind of a double A side. I mean, it's I said this before, where it's one of my favorite A and B side combinations ever. Just to absolutely knock you on your knock you on your back songs. I don't.
Are you? I mean, look. I do think that A, B, and B side combination that has to be among the top 100 7-inch singles of all time, top 500. Where is it?
Well, I don't know where it ranks because people that rank things probably don't know it. I mean, most people that rank things know what sells or whatever. So I don't really want to even put it in those terms. But it is. I will say it's one of the absolute best of them. I don't have other examples that come to my mind so easily, but when I think of these two songs, I think of just like the perfect A and B side combo. I remember one time trying to get this in an eBay auction, just because I love this so much, but it would have cost me a ton. And but I was willing, I was willing to go for it, although like things happen on eBay, it slips out from under you at the last moment. But
true.
But anyway, I was willing to go for it just because I love this. This is one of the best 45s or 7-inch singles that ever existed, as far as I'm concerned. And well, anyway, and going back to this Mortal Coil's version of it. Kim Deal on the lead vocals, and Kim Deal and Tanya Donnelly, right?
Yep. It's Kim Deal as the lead throughout on that one.
Yeah, but isn't Tanya Donnelly on it with her?
I'll have to look it up. Keep going.
Okay. Well, anyway, yeah. So, and I guess I should have also looked to see when that was released, but let me see here.
1991.
1991. So
Yeah, that's a double album. I remember because at the student radio station, I think the year that came out, I don't think anything was played on the student radio station at the University of Iowa more than You and Your Sister from This Mortal Coil's Blood. It was like almost
yeah,
24 hours a day.
yeah, and I can confirm that now. Tanya Donnelly is on it with her.
Not singing, but playing.
No, she's singing. They're both singing.
Oh, the harmony at the end. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, I got to jump in here because I really wanted to pick this one, but I was willing. I going with two This Mortal Coils would have been a little on the chintzy side. So I love You and Your Sister. It's probably my favorite Chris Bell song, but I'm definitely interested in your opinion. Now that that album, the I Am the Cosmos, has been released in a couple of different formats, there's at least 3 recordings that I know of done by Chris Bell. The one I think is best, I don't even think it's on the last reissue. It was only on the first generation Ryko disc, and I'm not sure why it's even called this, but it was the country version or the country western version. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Called that. It was called that. It was referred to something else later on. Oh, when they did the big box set, it was referred to as something else.
You're not going to argue that is the superior version by far, right? Everybody agrees on that, right?
Well, I don't know if everybody agrees. Yeah, I agree. I like that version a lot, but
it is perfect. Like the other versions are great, and if I only had ever heard the original or the album version, I'd be fine with that. But hearing that version, it's literally just him and his. It's just him. Like a lot of that record is, but he's got a band with him. But that version is just like the most pure expression of that song, in my opinion. And I think that's why the This Mortal Coil version is so good. Is it's also very stripped down to its essence, and it's just the songcraft. It's so tangible there that just how well written it is and how tight around the idea it is. It's really among my all-time favorites, and I have to say I enjoy the This Mortal Coil version for different reasons, but I almost enjoy it as much. I would. It's a matter of opinion. There's no way to be right and wrong, but of all the covers, there's not many Big Star or Chris Bell covers better than the This Mortal Coil version. There's just not. It's great.
Well, and I would do want to rep for another one I like, a band called O+S, who are from Birmingham, Alabama. They did a cover of it that I think is very good, and I considered putting on my list. Obviously, I've known that This Mortal... Why it's so hard to say sometimes. This Mortal Coil, I've known their version of it much longer, and the combination of Kim Deal and Tanya Donnelly, the way that they sing it, I think it's great, and I think it's a very difficult song to pull off. But those are 2 versions of it that I think are really good.
Yeah. If you like the Pixies, if you like Kim Deal, you like the Breeders, and you don't know this one, it's the thing you have to have. Go dig it out. All right, I'm gonna do. I realize it's overkill. I'm sorry. I am what I am. I'm gonna do a third and final version of Kangaroo. I love Kangaroo, and I think it justifies multiple plays on this playlist. I'm gonna pick the Jeff Buckley version. From what I understand, this was not even released in his time. Like I think it was like an extra track. I mean, poor Jeff Buckley. His catalog. Go ahead.
Yeah, studio outtake from '93.
Yeah, he was great with covers. His instincts on covers were great. He was a master at those things. I think it was good enough to be released. I have no idea why it wasn't. I'm really the way his posthumous catalog is managed is just. I'm sorry, it's just so exploitive. However, I'm glad in the sense that I got to hear his studio cover of Kangaroo. Kangaroo is just a great song. I've said enough about it. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but Jeff Buckley's cover is worthy. He did plenty of he did that in concert quite a bit. He did Kangaroo, and he did these really long like workout versions. I like all of them too, but I wouldn't start there. So I'm starting with the studio version. But if you have even a passing interest in Jeff Buckley or this cover, do go dig out some of the live performances he did. He really this wasn't he was reverent, but he definitely did his own thing with it. And maybe someday we'll do more on Jeff Buckley, but you can't do you could do a lot worse, I should say, than his cover of Kangaroo. It's pretty good, and the song is so good. Yeah, it's on here 3 times. I don't think anybody has a right to complain. It is that good.
Yeah, and I hate to mention this without having much to expand on it about, but interesting also that Memphis is where Jeff Buckley died. So
that is true.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. Is what I'm getting at, but okay, so we've already talked about "Take Care" by Yo La Tengo. That's on my list. I do have Jeff Buckley's "Kangaroo" on my list. How many more do you have?
I can do a couple more, but I know your list. You're trying to do what did you call it? The Baker's 13.
Yeah.
Name of the show. So you have 14. Why don't you do 2? I'll do 1. You do 1 more, and then we call it.
Okay. All right. Well, another one I have on my list, which isn't so much a downer, but is a song that was on Big Star's Third, is Jesus Christ, and the version that I have is by a band called Duval, which basically the same band but better known as Smoking Popes, a band from Chicago. For a while they were going under the name Duval, and I think the lineup was maybe a little bit different, but I don't know that it was much different, and I don't really know I don't really know where the differences are between Smoking Popes and Duval. The sound is very similar, but anyway, if you don't know them, check them out, because they're another good power pop band, and Smoking Popes / Duval. And anyway, they put out a holiday album. Let me find the year on that. I'm gonna say that was probably 2004. They put out a holiday album and featured their cover of Jesus Christ on it, and that's another one of so many good ones.
So something about Chicago and power pop. Is there a city with more fidelity to power pop than Chicago? I can't think of one. Weren't Spoons from there?
Well, I would go back to Athens, Georgia, as another.
Yeah, Cheap Trick I know is technically Rockford, but
right.
They made their bones in Chicago, I think, to some degree, or Japan, probably more accurately. But well, yeah. There's something very power pop about Chicago. I don't know why it's so loved there. When my baby's beside me, I don't worry.
Okay.
I couldn't help it.
All right. So do you have one more then?
Oh, I thought you were doing 2, son.
Oh no. Oh no.
Right. Well, then this will be my last one then.
Yeah. So you do one more, and then we can kind of go over our honorable mentions.
All right. I'm going to dip back into my favorite tribute album from 1991 Iowa. That's a synth. I know that's going to get us a lot of listeners, is doing thorough coverage of Alex Chilton records that were put out locally in Iowa City in 1991. I'm really going
Go maybe the people that put that out will give us a listen.
I hope so. I'm a big fan of it, and I think it holds up pretty well. Now, I know nothing about the band Pyramidiacs. I don't really know anything about them. The reason I couldn't avoid singing When My Baby's Beside Me is because their cover of When My Baby's Beside Me on that album is also pretty spectacular. It's not like I've ever tired of the original one, but it's one of those songs where, why aren't there more covers of it? That song has, you can go any direction with that one. You could be a rocker or a downer, I think, pretty easily. I think the song is very elastic in that regard. And while I think their cover is maybe a little on the faithful side, it deserves more love than it gets. So while I enjoy the cover, I don't know the band very well. It is kind of an excuse to just put "When My Baby's Beside Me" on here to make sure that it gets its fair due. So if I go out with that one, I'm proud.
All right. Well, okay. So yeah, a few more that were kind of in the almost category for me. One that I discovered not too long ago on Spotify, a band called Parece Doble, and I'm going to say that they're from Spain. But let me see if I can find out. Anyway, they did a version of "Stroke It Noel," and let me see here. Yeah, actually, if you go into the band bio on Spotify, it's all in Espanol, as well as this version of "Stroke It Noel." The album is called "Kiev Cuando Nieva," and so I don't have a lot of information on Parece Doble, but that's a very good version of "Stroke It Noel," and you don't find many covers. That's definitely a song you don't find many covers of.
And I think I know why. It's because it's one of those songs on Big Star's third that sort of straddles the traditional Big Star sound and then the stuff that's only on Big Star's third. It's definitely one of the it's one of the easier to identify, I think, as a Big Star song on the record. Not that like Jesus Christ isn't, and there's other stuff on there, obviously, but it's really the song that I think sort of bridges the gap between the two songs pretty well. It's probably hard for anybody else to do much with.
I would beg to differ. I would say if there's a song that kind of straddles that on third, it would be something like "Thank You, Friends." Like "Stroke It Noel" has those strings in it, which you wouldn't really find on the other Big Star records. And like strings and a flute. Like I don't know. To me, it definitely sounds more at home on Big Star third than it would sound on the other two.
I think they could have played it. They didn't tour for Big Star's third, as far as I know. There was never a
Right.
Big Star. I mean, I've heard. I think it's Alex Chilton in London. He does a couple from that. It doesn't lend itself to the live stage quite like the other two albums. And of all the songs on Big Star's third that I think they could have really landed hard in concert, I do think "Stroke It Noel" would be up there. But you're right, the string arrangement probably not easy to replicate. It's a real song.
Yeah, the strings are really more I mean, it's definitely something you find on other songs on third. I get what you're saying as far as like the tempo goes and maybe the spirit of it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it would be kind of a weird. What?
It's the only song on that album where they could sing "Do You Want to Dance" even slightly credibly.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, but yeah, it does have a similar sound though to like "Nighttime" and "Blue Moon," mostly because of the strings, but it kind of has that sort of similar feel. Lucero had a good version of "I'm in Love with a Girl" from the album "All a Man Should Do." That was 2015. Magnapop. I don't think this was originally on. Let me see here. Okay, so yeah, Magnapop on their 1992 self-titled album did a cover of 13. I remember seeing them live open up for Sugar at First Avenue, and they did 13, and I was like, oh, cool. They like that's one of those things when you see a band live and they pull out a cover of a band you like as much as Big Star. You kind of feel that connection with them. That was definitely one of those moments with the band Magnapop, who I believe were from Dallas, Texas.
Magnapop is one of those bands I feel like I see on every compilation album on Spotify, and I see their name all the time, and I don't know them. Are they what other have you got any other records, or is this just a Big Star thing?
So their album at the time when I saw them was called Hotboxing, which is a good. There's a great song called Closer Closer, which like I don't know their catalog extensively, but the song Closer Closer was great. It was like to me that was one of the That could have been like one of the big alternate hits from the '90s, but just wasn't for whatever reason. It really should have been like that was a banger. It was a big banger.
Big banger from Magna Pop. I feel you.
Yeah. Black Eyed Susan's another good version of Take Care. Bill Janovitz from Buffalo Tom. He does a couple of Big Star covers. Like other people, he does a version of 13, but he also covers You and Your Sister, which I liked a lot.
I gotta throw on Black Eyed Susan's cover of Painted Black. It's so good, but keep going.
Okay, and Elliott Smith's version of 13. He also did a few Big Star covers throughout his career. 13 was one that was done in the studio and ended up on the New Moon posthumous compilation. And I don't know, that's kind of it. A lot of other good ones. I also will rep for the not the singer but not the song but the singer compilation.
I only have one honorable mention, and I until I did this show, I did not make the connection, and I can understand some eye rolling. I will accept your eye rolling. Some smart ass, when they were they put a web list together of Big Star covers, somebody slipped in the middle of the list the song "Mrs. Lennon" by Yoko Ono. Now, I understand there's if I spend too much time talking about Yoko Ono, no one will ever listen to our program again, and I appreciate that. I get it. I do like Yoko Ono. I think she's way better than people give her credit for. She was way ahead of her time, and that stuff, a lot of that stuff she got dissed for, sounds great today. She was just ahead of her time, and when I listened to Mrs. Lennon, I was trying to figure out how it got on the list. I have to say, it sounds like Big Star's Holocaust musically sounds very, very similar. So I want to give a shout out to Yoko because she puts up with so much shit. It's totally unfair. And a lot of her stuff, I think, sounds great in retrospect for people who didn't like them. I understand some of the vocalization and some of the stuff she does is probably a little out there for average person. But John Lennon was a big, big fan. And John Lennon knew John Lennon had taste. Like, this wasn't just some vanity project for his wife. A lot of those records are great. If you're a Big Star fan and you like Big Star's Third and you haven't heard Mrs. Lennon by Yoko Ono, I'm going to put it on my list for you. Give it a listen. And again, I'm co-signing. Having me co-sign for Yoko Ono probably does her no good, but I am going to look for opportunities to keep pushing her stuff because I just hate how she was treated. She's a real artist in many different media. And I think if you like Big Star's Third, certainly if you've made it this far into this program, you have to have some interest in it. Give it a try and see if it doesn't make you feel a little bit better about her. It is worth the listen. It's on the album Fly from like 1971, so I'm pretty sure it came first. Doesn't mean Alex Chilton ripped it off. I'm just saying it is uncanny. So that's my last honorable mention. I'm so happy I got to talk about Yoko Ono today. It's pretty exciting.
All right. Well, yeah, that's
mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we're up to episode 49, and we don't have like a big blowout plan for the Big 5-0, but there's still time. I don't know what's coming, Flick, but be watching that 49er episode and then the Big 5-0. Who knows what we're capable of? If I could talk Yoko Ono this freely, who knows what's ahead?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
I know. It could be all Yoko Ono. That would be a great 50th episode. I don't know if do you get statistics on whether people actually finish the episode? Because I would be interested to know if we got anybody to listen all the way through. I would hope so. We'll see.
I don't know if I would be there for the end of
that.
Oh,
come on, son. All right, I'll work on it. I'll try harder.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.